invited in here because they need to hear this conversation today. Get some people invited in here. Let's go. I already got some people said I might listen to it today. Don't might listen to it. Listen to us today. Don't might do something. Just make a decision to make it happen. That's what we have to do as men. We got to make decisions to make it happen for our family.
There it is.
We got Albino in the building. We got Mr. Joe Williams in the building. Mr. Don't cut him. You know, he's always sharp. I be like, man, if you don't stop wearing that machete every day, man, you just gonna cut somebody. You just gonna be Jason every day. Every day's Friday the 13th when Joe Williams show up. You know? And then just plain on me. You know, I just try to make it do what it do, baby. You know what I'm saying? That's all I do. That's all I do. Albino on the ones and twos. He on the switchboards. Every show he make it happen.
Y'all share.
Marcus Wade.
Share.
Yes. I don't know if y'all can hear Albino in the background, but share. Today, we have an amazing topic for you all. Get your brothers on, your cousins on, your sons on, your friends on. Get you on. How about that? Just get you on first and foremost. But we have the topic of Clark Kent versus Superman. Now, y'all may not understand that right now, but it's the roles that men play, the different hats that men wear. And this is going to be a phenomenal show. I'm telling y'all, if y'all have been listening the last few months, y'all know. When we come with ammo like Rambo, because we can take heads off. Do you hear me? We're about to make it happen. And we have a lot of great things to share with you all today. So tune in, stay locked in, stay tuned in. We got a little bit of music playing, and after the music shuts off, we're going to get right into it. It's going to be juicy.
All right. Hey, welcome to It's a Family Affair. This is your boy, Journeyman Bell, along with my co-host, Mr. Joe Williams, Mr. Andrew Finch, and Mr. Marcus Wade. When we are coming to you live on today, y'all go out and tune in on today on the Fishbowl Radio Network. That's FRFBRN.com. .us. Thank you so much. And also you can find us on your Facebook page under It's a Family Affair Radio Show. That's IAFA Radio Show. And we are in the Blue Stream for those that are on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Y'all, we are excited on today, and we are taking calls as well. 214-431-5062. That's 214-431-5062. Y'all, and we are in the house. We want to also really quickly thank for all the sponsors, those that are sponsors, supporting the show, keeping this show alive, keeping this show going. Y'all keep those donations coming in. For those that would like to donate, you can go right now to www.mdwinnercircle.com. www.mdwinnercircle.com. And I'm telling you, we are in for a phenomenal show on today. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's good, man.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. What's up, J. Mitch? I see you on live. It's phenomenal. I'm thankful to be here.
Man,
it's a blessing.
Yes.
I tell y'all, man, this show here is definitely a show that's going to really enlighten a lot of people. That's why we're encouraging you now to get the men, because the men are in the house. I like to call us the Fantastic Four, because all of us carry some different elements and different perspectives, from ministry to regular life to even a little bit of street out there. We got a little bit of everything, and that what make us all fantastic within our own rights, because of everything that God has made us up to be, and everything that God has called us to be. He got to use something, guys, to make our lives a testimony, no matter where we come from. They say from the guttermost to the uttermost.
Hey, I like that.
He can save us all. And y'all, I'm telling you, man, this show on today, the show Clark Kent versus Superman, the adaptation of man, is going to blow your mind on today. And y'all, I'm just excited, man. How's your week been going, man?
Oh, it's been great, brother. It's been real good. And I just want to spend a little bit off of that
and say this. If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do us any harm.
Wow.
So that's part of what we're going to talk about today.
Man.
If there's no enemy in, I think I said it again. What y'all
Go,
think?
yeah, go ahead, man.
Say it again.
Enemy within.
Say it a little bit louder, because Mr.
If
Joe, you
there's
so
no-
smooth
I'ma
with
go
it. Say
for
it a
the
little
gut.
bit
Can I go for the
louder.
gut? If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside cannot do us any harm.
Wow. Man, we
See,
gon'
Mr. Joe be trying to take us to church, and I like it. I like it, Mr. Joe. Yes, take us to church.
Shot over there.
Take us. And look, I'm over here like hallelujah.
man, that right there,
Yes.
just alone, man.
Yes.
I'm telling you guys, this hot topic here, man. I'm still just encouraging everybody to share and tag,
Yes,
because
yes.
this show here is really going to bless you. We're going to talk about, once again, we're talking about Clark Kent versus Superman. And for those that don't know, this is the kind of a segment that we've kind of come up with, we brainstormed with, dealing with the Clark Kent of a person and the Superman of a person, y'all. And so we're going to start off this whole show with how do we view Superman? How do y'all view Superman from the outer perspective, from the outer shell?
Yeah.
From the outer perspective, it looks like Superman has no weaknesses, and keeping it with a man's perspective as far as real world, Superman was a made up character.
Mm-hmm.
But Superman, as men and as fathers, we have to wear capes, right? And people view us as invincible.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, Superman had his kryptonite,
Yes, sir.
or had his vices.
Mm-hmm.
For him, it was a green stone, and it was also a lady named Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and this just hit me. Wow, this just hit me.
That's all right.
If you think about it, kryptonite for men sometimes can be the $green bill.
That's right.
And then it can also be women, whether it's our one Lois Lane or multiple Lois Lanes. And we have to be cognizant of our kryptonites or our vices and how we move about in this world, because they can cripple us like kryptonite.
That's right.
That just came to me. That was powerful.
You jumping in the show real fast, man. You jumping into it real fast. Mr. Joe, what do you think Superman means to
I'm
you?
listening to what Andrew is saying, and basically, we have a lot come against us, and you
Yes.
have to armor yourself up to deal with the issues out here. You say, well, what are you talking about? Well, you got things within you warring there, and then you have Satan, and you got the world. So with all of that, you have to be armored up as a man, and let me take it a step further, as a godly man. You need to keep your armor, and understand that you're going to be under attack. And the thing is, you got to watch your habits. You got to, if there are old habits that get you into situations, you need to learn to veer from that, because that could be the kryptonite that Andrew is talking about. And if you get into that, instead of going forward, you're going backwards. The whole idea is for us to grow, not to go backwards, go forward. And as a man, you're a leader, and you have to stay within the realms. And your life is probably going to be pretty straight. And what I mean, that don't mean you're boring or anything like that, but it's just certain things, places, and entities you don't hang around anymore. So you have to safeguard yourself. And especially if a man know his weaknesses. You know.
Absolutely, and those types of things, y'all. That Superman definitely had. He's known for his leaping over tall buildings with a single bound, and stopping trains. And a lot of times, guys, what Superman is viewed as is the outer side of him. And this is the side that I'm really touching on right now, is that when you start looking at the outer shell, the family, they looking at the man for who he is. They looking looking at how strong he is and all those things. And so when you start talking about the strengths, you start talking about the different hats that we wear. So when you start looking at the different hats, what are some of the hats that a lot of times that women and wives and children, what do they see when you think about the hats that men wear? What are some of the hats that y'all think about that we wear in this thing we call Superman?
Well, okay. Well, so I'll take it. I wanted to pass it to Joe first, but I'll go ahead and take it.
Yes.
For me, when we were even coming up with this discussion,
Yes.
the day that we were coming up with this discussion, my mom was dealing with a challenge with her car, and so I was leaving from being a businessman to then also having my children, to then also going and helping my mom out with her car.
That's right.
So literally I was wearing 3 hats. I took off my hat of businessman,
That's right.
already had on my hat while I was wearing my hat of businessman, and already had on my hat of father, and then I had to have on my hat of dependable, reliable son for my mother.
That's right.
And so just in that alone, that's 3 hats
Yes, sir.
that personally for me that I have to wear, which I'm pretty sure there's many other men out there that have to wear that hat as well.
That's right.
And it's not an easy transition. Sometimes we're wearing 2, 3, 4, 5 hats at a time.
That's right. That's
I'm here at the radio station right now, and I was going to have my daughter stay with my parents. My parents were going to watch her, but she said, "Daddy, I want to come with you to the radio station. I want to see what you do behind the scenes." Now she's getting ready to be 6, and she's talking about behind the scenes. How do you even know what's behind the scenes?
That's right. That's
But I'm wearing my radio hat and my dad hat right now.
That's right.
And so there's many different hats that we have to wear, and I believe it takes a very strong man
That's right.
with a humbled heart
Yes, sir.
and balance to be able to wear multiple hats at one time. Because there's a lot of men that are out here failing their families and failing their children, not wearing the hats because they feel like it's too much.
Yes, that's right.
But heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yes, sir. That's right.
So with that, I gotta pass it on. I don't want to take too much mic time.
No, you're all right. You're all right.
And another thing, what you were saying, Andrew, is this: in all of what you was talking about, there were situations, there were problems that need to be handled. Now, in all of that, also is family.
Yes,
It's family, but even beyond that, what you're saying, see, when you walk this walk, it ain't always on your turn.
Nope.
Most of the time when you help others, it's not on your turn.
That's right.
But the key and the question is when it's in front of you, what is my attitude?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I like
What
that.
is my
Yeah,
attitude?
what is
That's
my
good,
attitude?
man.
Yep.
Do I have a spirit of gratitude, an attitude of thankfulness?
Yes.
Do I understand that in this walk, it's not about me?
Yeah.
And especially when it's on you.
Right.
And then what do they feel from you?
Yeah.
Do they feel like, oh, this is no problem. This is easy.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm willing to do, and I'm willing to do it without being like I resent doing it.
Right.
No,
right.
my
yeah.
heart
yeah.
is saying this is family. This is it. And then when you look at it, everybody, if you help anybody, anybody that helps another person to remove a burden counts in this world.
Yes.
And that's why we have to stay in that humble state. Like you were saying, it's all about developing you into that godly man.
Yeah.
Right. You got to have that premise, I think, so you realize that you put others before yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that requirement is needed.
And you know what, that right there is an element all in itself. When you take on that hat of humility,
Yes, sir.
you know that's the hat that a lot of people think is weak, would portray as the inner shell. But y'all, a open and public humility towards others is an implication of a strength all in itself. I look at Jesus, how often Jesus was the strongest when he was humbled.
That's right.
In everything that he did,
Right.
he always considered. If you are a man, this is a hat that I'll encourage you to wear.
Yeah.
That hat of humility will always bring in God's presence.
Yes,
it
sir. That's
will.
right.
It'll
That's right.
always bring in
Yeah.
God's ability, because he says, I think he talks about how when you humble yourself under his mighty hand,
Right.
he will exalt you in due
Yep,
season,
yep,
and that he
yep.
gives favor.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
that's
not
right.
gonna
Go
start,
ahead now.
but he
Get up on that altar. Get up on that altar, Albino. Get up on that altar. Uh-oh.
but he said he gives favor to the humble,
That's
and he
right.
resisted the proud.
That's
So,
exactly right.
so when you start talking about favor in a man being humble,
Yes.
man, I'm telling you, if more men would get that
Yes,
grasp,
sir.
they realize it ain't about sticking your chest out and
Right.
pulling off your shirt. That
Yeah.
pulling off your shirt is going low.
That's right.
Pulling off your shirt is the first one. I always say that the greatest man is the one that is willing to take his family into prayer, to realize that, hey, Superman starts with leading others into a safe place.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And when you
sir.
start trying to wear those multiple hats, like my boy Andrew was saying, you don't have time to figure out which one. Sometimes you got to wear both hats. You know, back when I was growing up, we wore two hats. We wore one front and one behind. That's old. That's old school. And sometimes I don't have time to take one off.
Right,
And take the
right.
other one on. I had to put them both on,
Right,
and both of them give me the accessibility so I can change gears quickly.
That's right.
And when you are a Superman, you have to first survey the problem.
That's right.
When you start surveying the problem,
That's right.
then you can determine what kind of strength to use
Right.
for the problem.
That makes
Well,
sense.
it's funny because you talk about wearing the two hats,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was growing up, our generation bit off of wearing two hats. When I played basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and we wore two headbands,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And talking about Superman and surveying everything, Superman never really made an action until he saw everything that was going on. He stood and he watched as if he was surveying the land.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. That's right.
And then somebody said, Superman, help.
That's right.
And you see the damsel in distress or whatever was
Right.
going on
That's
first,
Right. That's right.
then he would make his move.
Wow.
He wouldn't just react.
No.
He would actually respond. He would think about what he was doing.
Yes.
And so, speaking about our generation, our generation was looking to the generation before us for our Superman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now being the younger generation on the show, I know that there's a generation coming behind me
Yes, sir.
that's looking for the Superman of their generation
That's good.
to step in and to say, this is how you go about
That's
being a man.
Yeah, man.
right.
And it doesn't matter if it's the African American community,
Right.
if it's Caucasian, Asian, it doesn't matter race.
Right.
Every man is looking for a superhero type model
That's right.
to represent who they should and could be in life.
Right.
That's right.
And that's the most important thing about this conversation.
Yes,
Wow.
it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And that role model is so important, because as a man, we have to realize that we are a spotlight for
Yes.
everything that we do. Superman, when Superman showed up on the scene, everybody said, "Look, it's a bird. It's a plane." Because he appeared. If you look at what that says as a whole, he's saying a bird, which is indication of how he flies. If y'all ever just watch the beauty of a bird's flight,
yeah.
it's absolutely, especially an eagle.
Eagle. That's right.
An eagle
That's
has
beautiful.
the ability
That's
to
beautiful.
soar for hours.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Because of their endurance. Why do I say an eagle soaring for hours? Because if we gonna be the Superman, we've got to have an element of self-control. Superman was never ever in a place where he felt like he was out of control when he came out of Clark Kent. We're gonna talk about Clark Kent too.
Right.
But he never ever came out of place because of the dangers that was around them. And ladies, if y'all are looking for a man, and fellas, if you're trying to be the Superman, you got to have self-control.
Yes, sir.
Without self-control, the Bible says every man should have to know how to possess his vessel.
Yes, sir.
If you can't control yourself, there's no way you can conquer your family.
Wow.
You can't conquer your finances.
That's right.
You can't conquer business. You can't conquer ministry because you don't have no self-discipline,
Control. Yeah.
self-control.
Yeah.
So,
Because I always said that you are the God at the doorway of your life. Nothing gets in
That's
or
good,
out
man.
without your permission.
Wow.
Nobody can take
Yeah.
anything from you without your consent.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have to find that element within you.
Wow.
And don't say people took that from. No. People can't take. You gave. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't take it.
Yeah.
They didn't stick a gun to your head and say, I'm going to take it. No, they
No,
did
they
not.
didn't.
You allowed them.
Yeah.
You gave that up. They didn't take it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to get to that point that you have, like you said, I think that's part of that element of being a godly man, because you put the things in your heart that humble you.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the world gonna look at it different. They look at humbleness as weakness, but we're not concerned with the world. We're doing kingdom business here.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Right.
what's important.
I like how you spoke about kingdom business, and I like how you spoke about humbling yourself and having control over yourself. Because I'll just be transparent. You know, this week, matter of fact, yesterday, you know, I allowed myself to be taken out of my element.
Mm-hmm.
And just in this moment, that humbled me, because it made me realize, wow, there's an area within myself, within my life, that I really need to focus on being better at.
Yes.
You know, I know I've been working on some other areas, but by me not working on my anger and how I react to things in one specific area, it kind of got me out of my element.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with saying I have something to work on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
But if not for being here, I probably wouldn't even have looked at myself and said, you know what?
Yeah.
Check yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Check yourself. And just in that moment,
Yes, sir.
I'm sitting here like, man, I'm a student.
Yeah.
I'm so blessed to be getting game from y'all, because y'all OGs in the game. I'm like,
Well, man,
hey, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, and it's not a place where we haven't been either, Andrew. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea for you to even be transparent about that, that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That shows some humbleness. That's showing that I'm not perfect. I'm working on that. That I am work in progress.
Yes.
And we all are. And I always said each day we should be conquering some fear.
Yeah, that's it, man. I
Each
like that,
day.
Joe.
You got to be conquering it.
Yes, sir. And doing that, Joe, what you're doing is you're increasing your strength.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
that's the one thing that made Superman so powerful, is that he always found a strength in something, and he never ever got detoured in his strength.
that's
When
right.
once he was Superman, he had enough power to conquer whatever it was that he
Yes, he
needed to
did.
conquer.
Yes, he
and
did.
and like you said, this element of transparency, see, people will look at transparency as that's a Clark Kent element. But really, when you're dealing with the Superman in us right now, the outer shell, that element of, hey, listen, I messed up. If you can find a man that say I messed up, then you found a true man, ladies. If you can discover a man that said, listen, I was messed up in this mistake. I always say it like this, guys. I say, it's one thing to say where you messed up, but it's another thing to identify your mess up.
That's right.
When you start becoming specific and, look, I messed up, I slipped out a little bit, I slided a little bit in a place I wasn't supposed to be in, and I did a little bit of some that wasn't legal in my life.
Yeah.
You know, and not just legal to the world system, but legal in God's system.
right.
Because the one thing we overlook is the unseen things that we don't get caught with.
That's right.
When we don't, we know it's all right if I get past the system because they didn't catch me. But what about that integrity?
Yes, sir.
When you start talking about the superpower of integrity,
Wow.
This is what Superman was known for. They knew that when trouble came,
That's right.
he would show up.
Yes.
And when you start to build life as a man, as a superhero in your family's eyes, in your wife's eyes, that is important, guys, that you build that place of integrity.
Yes, sir.
Integrity for a man goes, the Bible says it like this, that a good name is more valuable than rubies.
Yes, it is. That's right.
Sure did.
So when you start develop a name, being known for something, it starts tracking you. You start getting down a track alignment of this is what you're known for.
Right.
You know, let me say this, and then I'm gonna turn it to y'all. But my dad has been ministering the gospel for about 40 years.
Wow.
So he's about 76 now.
Okay.
But listen here. Here's the thing. The first part of his life, he was known as a whore.
Okay.
He was known as a clubber. He's got multiple babies by multiple women. That's just the real talk there.
All right.
And he was known as a playboy.
Yeah.
He came into the Lord, and his integrity for the Lord has wiped out, like Paul was. Paul was known as a killer, but Paul's testimony and his super strength of what he was in the gospel overseeing everything that he was before that.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, when you look at that, when you look at the power of integrity,
Yes, sir.
that will sustain you even when you don't have to show up.
That's exactly right. Well, with integrity, you don't need a bodyguard.
Come on,
You don't need a bodyguard.
come on, man.
Integrity says
Come
this.
on, man.
I'm one with myself. I'm one person. I'm not schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm one. I always said, when your words, your deeds, and actions are one, that's integrity.
Wow.
You're not multiple people, not even to yourself.
Wow.
Yes, that's the whole, and that, you know, with integrity, you know, you influence people.
Yeah.
You can manage without it, but you can't influence people without it.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to have integrity. People are influenced by that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you start looking at this, and my boy Mr. Marcus in the house, y'all.
Welcome, Mr. Marcus Way.
We're good.
Man, when you start looking at this element of wearing many hats, y'all, what comes to mind? How do you think the family? Oh, let me ask it to you this way: how should the family view Superman? When you start talking about his strengths and everything, what are some of the elements that the family as a whole, the wife, the kids, what do you think are some of the qualities of the superpowers that they should view the man as?
I don't know. You talking about how they should see him or how they do see him?
Well, how they should see him. We can go into how they do see him, but I want to help the viewers and listeners kind of get an understanding of like kind of the standard of what is the Superman and what is the perspective that they should look for in him.
Accountability, responsibility, some honor, values, morals, integrity. All those things kind of encompass that that super role model, if you will, that Superman role model that kind of protects, you know, and provides and serves the entire family. It's almost as if there's no lack in him, but there is, most definitely. But that's probably how they would see him, as the person who is able to handle things.
That's
if
right.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think to go along with that, you know, he said responsibility and accountability, and immediately all I could think of is ability. Period.
Wow.
Is he going to just show the ability to go and figure it out, to go in and be a resourceful provider in whatever situation?
Yes, sir.
You know, how is it? Are you going to be showing up at, you know, daddy-daughter dances? Are you even going to take your daughter to daughter dances? Are you going to take your children lunch every now and then? You know, what are you going to do as a man for your family? Because at the end of the day, Superman shows up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
regardless of if there's kryptonite in the area, Superman's going to show up,
That's right.
and Superman's going to work as hard as Superman can to fight through his vices.
Yes,
Wow.
that's right.
And that's what we as men have to do,
Right.
is fight through all of our vices to show up every moment, every time, and make no excuses for
Yes.
it.
Be present.
exactly
I like
right.
that.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Mr. Joe?
And that is working on oneself, self improvement all the time. You know, growing. I know I talk a lot about that, but that's so important. How are you going to lead unless you are bringing value to you?
Yeah.
And you, when you do that, you strengthening you. You got to have the strength. And when you at your weakest with God, you are at your strongest.
Right.
We got to stay in His face in order for Superman to do what Superman needs to do.
Yeah, that spiritual piece has to be there as well.
Yeah.
Be a leader that out as that leading charge.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the other thing don't encompass about that man is being able to fulfill that ability, unless there is
Yeah.
that spiritual
Yes.
piece to
Yeah.
help him to understand who his head is.
Yes, that's
Right.
right.
That's
Right.
definitely, because
Right.
there has to be an order.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
Things
yes.
that you want that particular order
Right,
to
right.
follow you, if you
That's
will.
right.
Right,
And
right.
I think that's a part of that puzzle. The piece of that puzzle is somewhat missing.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
that
Yes, it is.
ability to always surrender yourself to your higher power, your
That's
God,
right.
in
That's
order
right.
so you can lead, and that role can be diversified.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that element of assertion, of how we assert ourselves in leadership roles. You know, there's a difference in a boss and a ruler.
That's right.
Yeah.
The boss is just giving orders, and a lot of times these men coming into that element of what we're talking about on the other end. What you were saying on Marcus is how we're viewed as. A lot of times we are also viewed as we're being too dogmatic.
That's right. That's right.
Dogmatic. We want to give orders, but we don't want to submit to none.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have to do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounded like you had some hesitation there, Mark. He said, but we have to do both.
because it's easy to tell somebody what to do, but when they start telling you what to do, now it's like I don't know if I should do that or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you start, the Bible says that we should submit one to another.
Yeah.
And so when you start dealing with the man that's able to rule, he understands and he can see the value of who the presence is on and who's God using, whether it's the wife.
Yeah.
Or whether it's the kids,
Yes,
or it's the dog, or whoever, he understands, okay, just because I'm the head does not mean that I have to give every order. I just sign off for everything that goes on in the house.
Yeah. It's kind of like the chairperson of a board of directors. You know, as two are heads of a household, you're co-CEOs.
Yes.
But that final signature lies in the chairperson's hands of saying, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this, or I'm not going to sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how Marcus spoke about we have to recognize order. And the Bible says it's God, man, woman, children.
Yes.
In the order of a household.
That's right.
And it's very important to keep that in mind as we go through our day-to-day lives.
That's right.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. you
And
do.
so when you guys start looking at that element of Superman as it pertains to a father, we got Mr. Andrews, y'all seeing right now doing the father and the radio right now, and you talk about those many hats. Marcus, you mentioned in the meeting about the hats of balance, the hats in balance. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, we're almost like being the father role now. Your son as well. You may be a husband or a significant other to someone else as well. And also you this church member, your brother in the church. I mean, there has to be diversity and balance in how you don't burn yourself out on all these fronts, if you will, but there has to have some type of priority set in place. So what do you give into to do at a first, second, and third level as well? And having this balance keeps you from feeling overwhelmed with things that may come your way. And what I've learned to do is say no to some things, even though they're it could be the mom or it could be the dad that needed something from me, and it's okay to say no if I cannot do it versus thinking I have to do it just because that role is calling for.
Right.
And that person is calling me to fulfill that role.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So even with my ex-wife, if there's something I may need to say no about, I'm comfortable in saying without feeling a sense of guilt, a sense of responsibility,
That's right.
or this endowment to actually fulfill that particular pledge. And that's sometimes hard for us to do.
Yes.
And not have that, gets that backlash
Yes.
that may come from other people.
Right.
Yeah,
we
man.
may put on ourselves.
Yes. And I think it's important that you find yourself in that. If it makes you uncomfortable, you don't want to do it, don't do it. Because, I mean, if it's making you uncomfortable, it's a reason there.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's a reason
Yeah.
there. If it wasn't, you would do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like that.
man.
Without
You
compromise,
know, so,
without
you
a
just
back
let your,
line.
and I think what you're saying, let your no mean no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your yes mean yes.
It don't have to be an aggressive no.
No.
It's just a, no, I don't think I'm able to do that right now.
Right.
And now the other person, I'm not responsible for their response if they accept it or not. However, I'm responsible for how I give the information.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
You know,
That right there for me has been a major challenge. Has been a major challenge for me in the position that I'm in, because I've been having a lot of people ask me, "Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this?" And I'm like, "Look, if I was working a 9 to 5, y'all wouldn't be able to text me or call me."
Yeah.
And say, "Can you do this?" Because now I'm on whatever job's time that I'm on.
That's
Right.
right.
But because I do what I do individually, business-wise, then people feel like, oh, well, your schedule should be open or
Flexible.
free, or you should flexible, exactly.
That's right.
Where you should be able to reschedule something.
Yeah.
Well, what if that person can't reschedule for a week or two?
We got a call, y'all.
Yeah, bring them on.
Hello, caller. How you doing?
Doing fine. How are you?
All right. Thank you for calling. What's your name? Can you say-
Great. My name's Lori.
Hey, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Hello. Hey, I do have a question.
Hey.
Hey, my question is this. This is really, really awesome topic. From a man's standpoint, I'm hearing you guys talk about aggression and strength and all of those man qualities. But what is the one thing that, or what is a particular thing that would prohibit or prevent that vulnerable place? Because we always honor the strength, the tenacity, the wherewithal. But what kind of environment, what prevents a man from being vulnerable, that, as you would say, that Clark Kent place, that humility, that vulnerability? What prevents a man from allowing himself to be vulnerable before his family?
can I get some feedback on it? I think this. Pride is a big thing. The Bible says pride comes before destruction.
Yep.
The Holy Spirit
Yep.
before a
Yep.
fall.
Yep.
When men have to pretend the front versus be the front, it
I like
allows
that,
them
man.
not to fulfill that peace, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
especially if there's a sense of hurt that's been implanted in their spirits and their hearts. If they have not healed from it, it's difficult for them to be that lead, that strong man, if you will, to have that strong front in a relationship, because it's almost like they're trying to like maybe prove something, maybe not only to themselves but to other people.
That's right.
So it limits their abilities, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with two things. When you first asked that question, insecurity and trust. If a man is insecure in who he is, then he's not going to act in a confident manner. But then also trust, where it's for us as men, at least from my perspective, we're raised to trust ourselves and our instincts to get things done, to handle things. And so sometimes it's hard for us to trust. Mr. Marcus talked about it, being hurt. You know, sometimes we don't, with that pride thing, we don't express that we've been hurt.
That's right.
Or if we've been hurt, we don't express how much we've been hurt.
Right.
That's
That's
key.
You see what I'm
that's
saying?
it,
So then, we might bring it up a couple of times. And I know in the past for myself, I've done this. I might have brought something up a couple of times, and the question's been asked, why you keep bringing that up? That was so long ago.
Right.
Why do women keep bringing things up? They're not over it. And so we have a sense of trust lacking in that area. So I think those are two big keys as well as insecurity and trust.
Yeah. And I think it also goes back to what Marcus said as well, that pride of embarrassment.
Yes.
You know, there's certain elements of what we're known for, like I said earlier, that we get into this place of, well, shoot, I'm known to be tough, and I'm known not to back down.
Right.
And so when you start dealing in relationships, that requires you to have to become softer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if you're hard in a relationship, then it doesn't give that way of fault.
Yes.
And going back again to what Marcus said, that pride element. And when we are afraid of being embarrassed, then that aggressive side comes out of us even the more.
Yeah.
And then when it's our fault, we don't just say, oh, well, I was wrong. We get more aggressive, more defensive, because as Andrew said, it's those other elements of rejection and building up to that we haven't assessed before we became Superman.
That's right.
Right.
We didn't take on the assessment of our whole life as a whole, and we just got into a relationship without really considering that, man, if it's my fault, what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I respond?
Right.
What do I say?
Yeah.
And that right there can lead to an aggression. What you're not willing to deal with, you get dealt on.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, if you don't want to face it, then when it's in your face, you're very defensive.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost get belittled.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, I mean, you can feel the intensity coming from you because that's a place of pain that haven't been dealt with. And it only comes up on a specific topic or subject. And you can see the change in you. You may be, your spirit may be, you may be like, I'm calm. And then you start rising up. And something rises up in you that's real aggressive.
And I'll say this too, it depends if the guy's in a relationship right now or pursuing one. The odds are, this is what I did, you know. I stayed out of the relationship for a season to heal. And if I was married and I was in my healing process, I probably need to take a sabbatical from some things and do some fasting to get rid of this plague that's in me that's hurting my ability to reconnect with my spouse or even with my children.
Yes.
And that creates healing.
That's right.
If you want, if a man needs to retake that position, if you will, he has to find a time to heal through pain so he can reestablish himself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's keys for growth.
I agree.
It is.
I agree, and you hit the nail on the head with that, Marcus. That wanting to get back in a relationship, because a lot of times, if I can be honest, when you are already hurting before you get in a relationship, we as men will have the tendency to hide behind another relationship instead of dealing with us. We'll go into our own little back cave of relationships, whether it's hiding behind sex, whether it's hiding behind these other little elements that we adapt in our life. Pornography, if I can be real transparent, pornography and having multiple women. These are all the types of things that we hide behind because we don't want to deal with ourselves. Because in essence, we fear being alone.
That's right. That's right.
Carla, you still there? Did they kind of give you some
Yes,
feedback?
yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay. You had another
That
thought
was
for
really,
us, or
really-
did that answer your question somewhat?
Really, really awesome. Yes, it does. May I ask or make it one more statement? Would that be okay?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Of course.
Okay. If I am an alpha female and I'm approaching my mate with the desire to soften and allow him to come forward, what are some tools that you could give me as an alpha, that strong woman, that strong female, that would allow his vulnerability to be shared with me?
Can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah.
What I would say is just how you asked us that question, very soft, very inquisitive and loving. I would say approach him in that manner. What I understand is there's two types of questions, and you ask them for two different reasons. You have open-ended questions where you ask for learning, and then you have closed-ended questions, the yes or no questions, where you ask for leading. And so whatever information or whatever direction you want to go, just keep that in mind, where if you're going to him and you want to ask, well, honey, you know, what was going on this week that this couldn't get done that I asked you to get done?
Yes.
Or whatever you ask, you know, just be cognizant, because you know him better than we know him. But you know his triggers. So think about his triggers before you go in and have your questions formulated. You know, the Bible talks about having a vision, writing it down and making it plain. If there are certain questions you want answered, think about the best way that you could ask them. Write those questions down that you want to get answered, and then go into the situation to be able to gain understanding and clarity of what you're looking for.
That's right. Because I think
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Joe.
I was going to say, because you kind of set the tone in that situation. And you know, we all know that aggression beget aggression.
Yes.
So you want to go the opposite. You want to definitely go the opposite and set the tone. Like Andrew was saying, that kind of carries it all the way through. And you know, and it shouldn't be a situation where it should be upsetting to him because of your tone.
Yeah, let me add this before you get off the phone, caller. I know you're still listening. Is that in conversations, we have to find a way to accept the answer.
Yes.
I like that,
The person
man.
tell you something, the odds are believe what they say.
That's right. Dropping it, man. You're
Oh,
dropping
that's
it,
good.
boy.
Probably wanting to hear something we want to hear. And I had the same issue in reference to trying to make sure I had clarity or clarification of a statement that I wanted more information on. When they, if a person tell you something about themselves or something that they're doing, I mean, you have to take some things as face value or accept it versus wanting more of what's maybe not there.
Yes.
Because that could create conflict in both parties.
Yes, it can.
You know, defense
Yes, it can.
mechanisms
Yes,
and
it
things
can.
like that.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that as well. And it's okay to have not all the information. They gave me what they wanted to give me.
Right.
You know,
Right.
how can I accept that?
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, it is.
That's
That's a drop the mic kind of moment, there, man. That's good, man.
That's right.
Whew. But caller, we definitely thank you for calling in, and we appreciate the questions. And anybody else that really want to call in, and we're taking questions, ladies, men especially. If you got any questions or comments, we definitely want to take you. 214-431-5062. That's 214-431-5062. We're talking about Clark Kent versus Superman, y'all. So let's get back to this before we go to the second segment of wearing hats, wearing multiple hats. What about, guys, about the hats that are forced on us? How do we cope with that? How do you cope with? Because we all fathers, I think. We're all fathers in here. Right. So I'm almost willing to bet that none of us had planned on being a father. But it was just kind of a forced on place where it just kind of, hey, you know, I just want to call you, let you know that, you know. Most of us got the call.
I'm a little late.
You know, hey, something didn't turn out right, and I'm just letting you know that it's yours, period. So when y'all adapted that element of Superman, if you will, how did you respond when that hat got forced on you?
I don't know. I guess it was for me. I became a father. I guess my daughter's 3, almost 4 now. But I have 2 stepchildren that actually they call me dad.
That's right.
And I took upon that role when I even got divorced to continue to nurture them and guide them in life because they needed that male figure, if you will, to continue a role in their life.
Right.
And I won't say I felt it forced upon me. I felt it was more of a responsibility. I guess it was a responsibility that was forced upon me to continue and not drop the ball and just think that I was responsible for one person. In actuality, 3 people have learned to depend on me, not just one.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I had to learn to
absolutely.
accept that.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
I think the first thing about situations like that, the first thing is awareness. The second thing is acceptance. You got to get to acceptance. So this is where we are. This is what I got to do. I was there, if you want to put it like that. And you know, this just didn't happen by osmosis. So it's time for you to step up to the plate.
Come on, man.
Because, you know, they didn't ask to come here.
Yeah.
People make decisions and they come.
Right.
So it's time for you to step up and be that person. And that means it's not about you anymore. We having a baby.
Yeah.
We having a baby.
Wow.
And I say we. Yeah.
Yeah.
We having a baby.
Yeah.
And that's not guaranteed it's gonna be
It's gonna stay a we.
We.
It might turn into a me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with that, your responsibility is to the baby,
Yeah.
not the other entity.
Right.
And I just believe this is just my thought.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not going to be responsible for your child, then God is not going to bless you. It's not. You're responsible regardless of whether you're with the other person or not.
Right.
It's called being responsible
Yeah.
because you made a decision.
Yeah.
We did.
You know, it's interesting speaking about the topic of children because a lot of people don't know this, but for 6 years I raised a little boy who I believed to be was mine, and in 2014 I found out he wasn't mine.
Wow.
But in 2013, the little one that keeps running in and out of here, who'll be 6 April 10th, she is, you know, my first biological child, and now I have a 5-month-old, another daughter who's not here with me, but as it pertains to stepping up, you know, I think instinctual and spiritually in your heart, it's just something. If you're right in your spirit, you're gonna step up and you're gonna do it. That's a father.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know, at 18, I didn't know what the heck I was doing,
Right.
but I knew that there was something in me that said, "Be a father to this little boy."
Right.
And then when the other 2 came, you know, I'm blessed to have one mother for both of those girls. I'm not running around making babies with everybody else, but their mother was wonderful. She is wonderful. She's been phenomenal. We've been able to co-parent in an amazing way, and I have the utmost respect for her, and I don't let anybody disrespect her. And I think as men, we have to set that standard and set that tone, because if we don't, then our children will feed off of that, and our children will ultimately disrespect us, as well as disrespect their mother and anybody else that they look to as an authority figure.
Wow. And I agree with you completely on that, man. And for me, as an individual, I actually was looking forward to being a father till I actually became one. All the images of because see my road turned out to be a different road, because when I was expecting it, I was looking in the aspect of I'm gonna take my son to the park, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna play football with him, hut, and all of those things, all of those things that you do. And then my life took a curve because my son has autism. So now, no more football, no more basketball. Yeah. Now I have to learn about something that I had no knowledge of. And that right there, dealing with a special needs child in itself, it can be a bit of a, especially when I've never, autism. Autism for like 19 years ago was barely even heard of. Yeah. It was starting to come, but nobody really heard of it. So he was like a baby boomer, if you will, in this area. So now I got to do all of this research about something I've never heard. Right. Plus, he was hyperactive. Yeah. So not only is he learning information fast, you got to slow him down even more for that. And so for me, it became like, I don't want to be no daddy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. But you know, you can't you can't take the hat off and just say, I don't want this hat no more.
Yeah.
You know, now this hat is thrown on me of coping with an infirmity that I had no knowledge of.
Yeah.
So in my term, it was difficult. It was frustrating, and this father and you know, if I can be real transparent,
Yes.
when all of this started to take place, I started withdrawing myself from my son.
Right.
Yes.
Now a lot of people may judge that, but that's just how I felt because I didn't want that responsibility no more. I said, man, I don't want to do this. But then I started remembering that, you know, this kind of thing runs in our bloodline, that men don't want to help men be better men.
That's
So
right.
I had to literally, not that I don't love my son, I love him to death, but I had to force myself in a place in love
Yeah, that makes sense.
to help cope with. And sometimes, and I know people say love is not forced, but listen, when my mindset was not on being a father anymore and I wanted to withdraw and all of this, I had to realize, like you said, that responsibility place that I needed to come to grips with and find myself getting back in the grind no matter what the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I believe, that a lot of men may have that feeling like, man, I didn't know it was gonna be like this.
Right.
I didn't know I was gonna have 12 kids and then, you know, be forced into this coping mechanism. And so I don't want no part of it. And so when you start getting into that place, you have to realize, like you said, Mr. Joe, that element of taking responsibility,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
becoming a part of what you need to do
Sure.
and how you need to do it as an individual
Yes,
and
yes.
as a whole.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is a lot. That's all I can say.
It is.
And I just want to take a 5-minute break. Can we take a 5-minute
We can
break,
take a
y'all?
5-minute break.
And bring everybody in. Come back in a minute, and we'll pick the rest of this segment up right after this, y'all.
All of y'all watching, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Stay on live. We come.
Hey, this is Isla Jays with Not Typical Church Folk. Catch my show, Talk Typical Thursdays, every Thursday from 8 to 9 Central Standard Time. On my show, you'll hear about...
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Groovy Gary, and I'm just letting you know you made an awesome choice by tuning in to Fishbowl Radio Network on FBRN.US. Keep it locked right here. Fishbowl Radio Network.
Congratulations from Velvet Oasis Events, wedding and event.
So sweet.
Hello. Hello.
How I prove it more and more. I love to praise him. I love to love him. For his grace is more than enough, and it proves it more and more. Can you help me say Jesus? Oh, for grace. To trust him. To trust him more.
We are back. We are back. We are back. Welcome back to It's a Family Affair. It's your boy Journeyman Bell, my boy Jay Williams, my boy Andrew Finch, and also my homeboy, the Fantastic Four, Mr. Marcus Wade.
Wait. Why Joe get Jay Williams and I get Andrew Finch and Marcus get Marcus Wade? Where's our nickname?
We're working on that.
Bell, Jay Williams, Andrew Finch, and Marcus Wade. That's all we get, Marcus.
You know what? I'm going to put y'all first next time. we are in the house on today. We are talking about Clark Kent versus Superman. And, y'all, we are going straight to a caller that has called in right now. Hello, caller. State your name.
State your claim.
Hello?
Caller, we are waiting on you.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Is that mic up?
Yes.
Hi, this is Shantae Cuellar.
Oh, there we go.
How you doing?
All right. Yes, ma'am. Miss Shantae, how are you doing?
I'm well, and yourself?
We're doing great, Yes, ma'am. You have a question or comment you would like to add?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us now? Hello?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, can you hear us?
Shantae, do you hear us?
Shantae, you are on with It's a Family Affair Radio.
Do you hear us, Shantae?
Is there any way you can call that you can hang up and call back? Okay. Well, maybe let's see if we can get her to call back.
All right.
We're going to wait on that call.
I'm going to call her.
I'm
going to call her.
We're going to call her back.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Are you there?
Miss Shantae, we can hear you.
Something's going on with my phone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I can't watch the show, apparently, and on my phone at the same time.
Oh,
okay. So I'll go ahead and just make my statement / ask my question.
Okay.
I'd like to know, for you gentlemen, being men, of course, I am a female, so I am asking from a woman's perspective, but then observing over the years.
Okay.
I think that men, the intimacy, and it's not to sound super churchy or super spiritual, but I think the intimacy with God the Father, true intimacy with Him, is in part where the challenge comes into play. Because sometimes I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that men are even vulnerable or transparent with him. And until people become intimate with him, not in a sexual way, of course, but that getting to know him personally, what he expects and his expectations are. I think until that becomes a dominant position in men's lives, I don't think a lot of things will be alleviated until that happens.
You mean like healing, you mean?
Pardon me?
You mean like healing?
No, not just healing. I just mean intimacy.
Oh, in personal relationships.
Like, in other words, if I'm hearing it correctly, Ms. Shantae, you're saying that until a man establishes his relationship with God, he'll never be able to understand a relationship with anybody else?
Or even within himself, yes.
Yeah, we agree with that.
Or-
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, if I can be honest, that self-evaluation that Marcus is always talking about is so vital to a man of being a healthy for not just others, but as you saying, Ms. Shantae, for himself as well. And when a man does a self-evaluation, you know, that like that song says, it's me, oh Lord,
That's right.
standing in the need of prayer. That song alone signifies that, hey, listen, David also said, my sins.
Yeah.
When a man begins to acknowledge his sins
That's
or ever
right.
before him, he is already putting and positioning himself in for a relationship to say, God, I've done it my way.
That's right.
And I need your help.
Yeah, that's right.
Your way.
Right, right.
Indeed.
Does that help? Does that help in understanding anything that you've already been saying, Ms. Shantae?
Well, yes, it does. And I just look at my husband and I. My husband and I celebrated our 20th year anniversary yesterday.
Hey, turn it up.
And-
Hey.
Thank you. But he and I met under very unique circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he knew the first moment he met me that I would be his wife.
Wow.
And I found that very interesting because, of course, he didn't know me at that point.
Right.
However, even though he knew that,
Right.
it still didn't mean he was prepared to be a husband.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And it was interesting how that even came about, or even the discussion later on in our marriage, because it's like you may have known that to be fact, but did you have the tools? And
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
there's always a discussion of if we should have gotten married when at the time we did, because we both were not equipped to be the best spouse for each other at the time. But of course, needless to say, all that's water under the bridge. But I was just using that as an example, not just from observation, but just
Right.
being in the midst of a situation as such.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ms. Shantae, if I can add this as pertaining to our topic, Clark Kent versus Superman. Clark Kent always knew he was Superman, but he didn't know how to be Superman until he knew how to be Superman.
That's right.
He had to be groomed to be Superman.
Yes.
See, his parents sent him off of his planet and sent him to planet Earth, and he grew up knowing that he was special, being raised by his parents, and his parents knew that he was special. But just because he knew that he was special and his parents knew that he was special doesn't mean that he recognized how special he was.
That's right.
See, we all have the creator within us.
Yes,
we
we
all
do.
have the powers of the universe within us.
That's right.
That's why you have people that go out and become uber wealthy and create hundreds of businesses or what have you.
Right.
And they affect the world in the way that they do.
Right.
We all have
Indeed.
the special abilities within us to be whatever it is that we seek to be, but we only get the results that we get based on the story that we tell ourselves.
Yes, that's right.
You know, I'm only getting the results I'm getting. Marcus, Journeyman Bill, Mr. Joe Williams, we're all getting the results in our life because of the story that we're telling ourselves. And so as we begin to tell ourselves different stories, see, your husband, when he met you, he changed his story. He said, that's the woman for me.
Right, that's right.
And he kept telling himself that story, although he wasn't ready at the beginning, because he kept telling himself that story, his mind had no alternative but to comply with the directions of which he was giving himself, which was to say,
That's right.
you're the woman for me, I'm going to be the man for you. and he began to find the answers, and the universe began to open up and share with him what he needed to be your husband of 20 years in one day now.
That's right. And you learn the true professional man is finding his way to himself. And see, that comes with self-love and identifying who you are.
Yeah.
Who you are with what you came out of. See, when a man realized he come out of God, then and he was created in the image of and given dominion, but the image is first. And then he comes with gifts.
Yeah.
So he learned to develop a relationship with his creator to find out who he really is. Not what the world think he is, but the true him, the true person that had to come out. And he found that through a relationship with his Heavenly Father.
Can't see him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. And it goes back to that, again, understanding truly who God is and that intimacy with him.
Right.
And, of course, prayer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
That spending intimate time with prayer, a lot of times, you mentioned intimacy from a sexual perspective, but a lot of times what people have a misunderstanding of is intimacy is not necessarily physical.
Right.
Intimacy is having a close, deep relationship with somebody where I can be intimate with Marcus here and share with him, my hurts, my pains, my secrets, things of that nature, and not be physical with him.
That's right.
Sexual is physical. Intimate is more of a bond and a relationship and a connection.
It's a difference.
Yeah, it's a major difference. And we have to be more intimate with God, but also with others in our lives. Right. And when we can do that, we can have better relationships.
Yes.
If I can just add this little part, I do understand what her husband is saying when he says, "I seen that I knew them the moment that I saw you. You were my wife."
Right.
And that can be absolutely true. But like she said, those tools, sometimes when what we see as a tree is really just the seed.
That's right.
It does not mean that it's not God.
Yeah.
And it does not mean that he missed God. But sometimes when we see, oh man, I'm going to Six Flags, or whatever it is, we're going here or we're going there, we instantly go thinking that we're just going to go right into some things.
Right.
When actuality, the promise could be part of the process. So he saw the end before he actually saw the beginning.
That's right.
And a lot of times, and I can attest to that because my first wife, I said, this is my wife. But because I didn't take care of it, see, people miss that.
Nurture it.
They miss that God said it, but he said, what I join together, let no man put asunder. Right. It means that God will do the bringing together part, but it's our responsibility to keep it together. Right. And if you're not a wise person with your promise, you can lose it. Oh, yeah. The children of Israel proves that clearly.
Definitely.
They lost the promise because of their own selfish ways.
Yes.
And so God went to the Gentiles to give them the inheritance of the promise.
Right.
And so, God can promise you something, but if you are immature, you're unlearned, you're unskilled, I don't care if I give you $1 million. If you don't understand what to do with it, you're as broke as having that $1 million.
That's exactly right. Yes.
So I can understand clearly that element. And with me, I saw my first wife. I saw her. And I knew that she was the one. But I didn't know how to deal with relationship. I didn't know how to deal with forgiveness. I was prideful. I didn't want to listen and all this stuff. And all that God had promised me with that got threw out the window because I didn't want to wait. I jumped into it. God said it. And this a lot of times that's what happened with us as church people is God will say it and we'll start moving instead of waiting on God. If he said it, that means he's got instructions how to get it.
Right. Yes,
and we miss that oftentimes that God said told me to go here, but we don't sit and wait on how he wants us to carry it out.
That's right. Yeah. That's true.
Thank you for that question, but that was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much. Happy anniversary.
Yes.
So guys, y'all, She don't took it a whole nother way.
Well,
Yeah.
we know we have to have this deeper relationship with God. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
You know, even having balance, the first does what's natural, then does what's spiritual. You have to have both aspects of this balance and living life, you know, and God is a great piece of that.
Yes.
And knowing how to present that on different fronts is very important. I was talking to a person the other day, and they were talking about how they were trying to teach this recovery group, and they were using Christian points of view a lot. And I said, what if you don't have a Christian in the group? How do you draw them to
That's
you?
right.
And I think you have to find ways to present Christ to a person that they'll want it without even knowing you presented it to
That's
them.
exactly right.
You know, the love of God has just come out of you. And I
Yeah.
think when relationships is
Right.
the same way. If I'm single and I'm in church and I'm praising God, when I meet someone I'm in church, I need to keep praising God. I need to continue my devotion to learning more who He is and how to nurture the thing within this fellowship.
Right, right.
You know, so as we grow and we get married and things like that, we'll be able to continue to grow as individuals as well as together.
Right.
Because once I get married, my responsibility shifts.
Yes.
And my responsibility is to my wife, and I stop thinking about developing me sometimes. So, but I still have to keep that perspective.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's kind of what maybe her husband was doing. Kept working on himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No question. Yeah.
And see those elements right there come into the Clark Kent part of us.
Yeah.
That that personal place. So when you start looking at Clark Kent, you start to see him as a weaker person than Superman a lot of times. But the thing about what made Clark Kent, and this came to me when I was driving up, is that Clark Kent was a journalist. We know that. But watch this. He was, if you look at it deeply, the journalist at a newspaper column that deals with nothing but news.
Okay.
Watch this.
All right now.
And so that means he was well aware of all the everything that was going on, all the trouble that was going on at Metro Park or whatever the name of the city was. So that means he was quick to adapt to being a Superman because he was already a step ahead.
Yes.
So when you start looking at Clark Kent in those elements, what elements of the dealing with the weaker side right now, what positive and negative roles do Clark Kent provide to us as men, our weaker side? What are the positive and negative roles of being a Clark Kent?
I don't know, but I think this one thing that happened, although he didn't know how to function outside the Superman role in this strong stance, when Lois Lane had a favor on who she thought Superman was for her, he changed his perspective on who he was as Clark Kent.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Because he started to take notice that she noticed him, but she never noticed him.
Wow.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was something that shifted.
Yeah.
Right. I like that, man.
And he changed according to what she saw in him, so he can hopefully give her this presence of who he was.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
You get it?
Right.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He made an adjustment.
Yeah.
That
The
is-
real him haven't surfaced yet. It's like us, you know, as we grow, you know, the ability, trapped in every follower is a hidden leader.
Yeah.
To be revealed. Now, what
That's
do you mean
good,
by
man.
that? As you grow, you don't get to a certain place, but you growing all the time, and it's revealed later. They say, well, Andrew started here, but listen at Andrew now. He didn't just get there overnight, but look at him now. But that's the growth, and it's being revealed through a relationship with our Heavenly Father. You gotta go
the
back to the
environment.
premise.
It's the environment, man.
It's the
That's what I said. That's that environment of
And
what
I
he.
think he wanted to reveal himself a long time.
Yeah.
But he knew he couldn't.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
I don't necessarily think he knew that he couldn't, but he felt that he could.
Well, he probably felt he couldn't.
Yes,
Right.
that's
I think he felt that he couldn't because a lot of people wouldn't accept him as Superman.
That's
Yeah.
true.
They wouldn't accept the
They
change.
wouldn't accept him.
They
as
wouldn't
Superman.
believe it.
piece of
Yeah.
him.
It's like Jacob being named Israel after
Right,
he wrestled
most
with
definitely.
God in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. when he went back to everyone saw him as Jacob. But God said, "This is your name.
Yes.
This is who I've called you to be."
Yes, sir.
And being transparent with me, for a long time, I wrestled with the Jacob in me.
Yes, sir.
And
That's right.
and just in having one foot on the basketball court, one foot in the streets, just being a knucklehead and doing dumb things
Yes.
that did not bring honor to God. It didn't bring honor to my family. It brought nothing but shame and embarrassment. But as I began to walk in my purpose and move forward, it allowed my family to have greater experiences.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
It
man.
allowed me to have greater experiences. And I still pray for the people I used to associate with. I hold nothing against them. They did nothing wrong to me. As some people would classify it, I feel, things happen the way that they happen. But at the end of the day, as we live in our purpose, we walk in our purpose, we show glimpses of Superman in our life,
Yes, that's right.
being Clark Kent.
That's good. I like
you
that.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like on a day-to-day basis, from a day-to-day
Yeah,
perspective.
I like that, man.
We throw on our cape real
Yeah.
quick, and then we go back to
Yeah.
Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Throw on our cape real quick, go back to Clark
Because
Kent.
see, he really couldn't hide. He could only hide Superman so long with the glasses and the hair. You know what I'm saying? His inner, his outer was always there.
Right.
In other words, our potential to be the superhero is always there.
Right.
God has already gifted us to be the superhero because he said, I give you power to tread up on serpents and scorpions and nothing in all of the powers of the enemy, and nothing by any means shall hurt us. So he's given us the authority to conquer, to rule, and to provide that superhero. But he's saying, hey, I need you to kind of keep it covered.
Yeah.
Keep it.
So that means he practiced humility.
He
did.
Going back to that again.
He had to practice humility.
He had to,
Yeah.
but because I see the perspective you're saying, but also in the perspective of if everybody found out everything that he was, then everybody would gravitate to him all the time.
Yeah.
And see, he didn't need to be Jesus. The Bible says that Jesus made himself a no reputation. Jesus had every right to prove he could be Superman at any time,
Yeah.
but he chose. See, this is what a lot of men have to realize, that we can show ourselves strong before people, but we have the choice to take the lower road,
Yes, sir.
so that the true Superman, which is Christ,
Right.
can be glorified in us.
Yeah. That's one of our greatest superpowers.
Yes,
It's
sir.
the power of choice.
Yes, sir. Come on, man.
We get to choose.
Oh, that's
Okay,
good. Come
am I
on
gonna
now.
Put on the cape in this moment,
Right.
or am I gonna give you the opportunity?
That's good,
to
man.
be Wonder Woman or Superman.
Come on, man.
In this
That's right.
situation,
That's right.
I have the power of choice to say I'm going to give you the cape. Now, whether you choose to put it on, that's your choice. But you are the Clark Kent and the Superman in your life, or you are the Wonder Woman, and I can't think of her name, her regular name, but you are that woman in your life.
Yeah.
I can't be that for you all the time.
Man.
That's right.
And I'm not going to be that for you
Okay.
because I have my own accountability
Yes, you do.
that I have to be accountable to, and I have my own responsibilities.
Wow.
And I know the first two, or the first one is God, and
Yes,
then the next three is myself and Aubrey and Avery.
Yeah.
That's right.
In that order.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Even their mother, she has to be accountable and responsible for her.
Yes.
Now, if we were to put those rings on, that order changes. But right now, those rings aren't on.
Come on now. That's
So
true.
I have a certain order that I have to remain accountable and responsible to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes we find the problem is self-image. That what I say I can't do come from a deeper feeling. I don't think I can.
Yeah.
From your thinking, it all goes back to that. You know, and that keeps you bound. You got to realize who you are. You got to get to that point, whatever that day is, and you say, I got to stop this. And you decide. That's the luckiest day of your life, to move in another direction. I heard you saying, Andrew, you know,
you got tired of embarrassing the family.
Yeah.
One day you decided, I'm done.
Yeah.
I got to
Yeah.
do. That means you shifting in another direction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
shifting not only that, my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
What tools do I need to change my mind? Renewing of the mind.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
And then you got away from the familiar.
Yeah.
And it takes courage to do that.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that, Joe.
It takes courage to move
To move
from
from
something,
your familiar.
from your
And,
familiar,
man, that's
to move in a direction that's much better.
it's-
Yeah.
that goes back to that element of the environment and the adapting to the environment, because one thing we know is that our environments is always changing.
Every day.
Yes.
And when you start getting into those, there's 3 grades of change. There's a small change, there's a mid-grade change, and then there's a drastic change.
Yeah.
Those elements tend to fall up under getting married, a loss in the family, financial loss of jobs, those things like that, and even having a child. So these elements of change that we deal with in our Clark Kent place, we have to be most mindful of, guys, is that I can't it's not time for me to be Superman until it reaches its most dramatic place.
Yeah.
Dramatic place. And when it comes to that, now I can snap out of this shirt and I can be that. But until then, I have to learn how to come back into that place of self-discipline.
That's right.
And let Clark Kent be the full leader that he's intended to. See, Clark Kent has some abilities too, but in the movies, he doesn't always show it. Because like you said, Marcus, that level of humility that takes its place.
Yeah.
And so when you learn how to walk in humility,
That's right.
you'll discover so much more about everything else about you.
That's exactly
That's
right.
what I want people to see about me
Mhm.
with these roles, is that when you're looking at Clark Kent versus Superman, the identity we're looking at, I want them to see the strong man in me despite seeing the Superman in me. Because I'm strong despite me not showing the strength in that moment. And I think the humility part, being humble, will allow that to stand out a lot, and me being able to work through things, you know, in an understanding way helps to bring balance
Yes.
in relationship with my kids, the mother of the children, even with the church body.
Right.
You know, when I'm on my job, it allows me to have this sense of balance as well.
Sure.
There's a sense of awe, if you will, when I'm at the hospital working, that I have a level of respect from people. Not that I've asked for it, but my presence has somewhat demanded it.
That's right.
Without me
Absolutely.
saying a word, I just, because of what you present.
Yes, sir. That's right.
You know, they don't know that this Superman exists,
Right.
but I think they know there's something's there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I think that brings about something in establishing other relationships.
That's right.
On my Facebook Live, this young lady, Miss Kimberly Miller, she's commented a couple times, and her most recent comment was, "We got to accept the Clark Kent and the Superman in a man. He's human. He's not wearing the cape all the time."
That's right.
And that's true. I completely agree with you, Kimberly.
Yes, sure.
And you can hear it from the men on the show.
Yes.
They agree with you as well.
Yeah.
The Clark Kent in us has to be accepted.
Right.
And first and foremost, we have to be able to accept it. But
Right.
other people have to be able to accept we're not wearing our capes
All the time.
every single day, all the time, in every single moment.
right. That's
And I
right.
think people forget that sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
Like
Yeah,
I think that I really think they do.
Yeah.
Is they call on us at the 13th hour.
Yeah, they created time. Yeah, created
they
time.
call us at
Yes.
the 13th hour, and it's like, hey, I got this going on. Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that?
Yeah.
Or I know you got this going on, but can you be Stretch Armstrong?
Yeah.
No, I can't
That's
right
right.
now.
That's right.
I'm
Exactly.
already being Superman over here.
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic Four over here.
Yeah.
The Avengers over here. Like I'm
Yeah.
already putting out all these fires.
Yeah, yeah.
Stretch.
In this situation, I apologize, but I'm Clark can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Not putting on this cape. I can't
Yeah.
do it right now.
Absolutely, man. And you have to be okay with
But
being.
today I'm full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is a lot, and a lot of times that we don't take in the accountability that it is a lot to be a man. And,
Yes, it is.
And because we are quiet in our Clark Kent place, that a lot of times they only see us from that perspective as well.
right.
That quiet place a lot of times,
right.
and y'all that shows our weaknesses sometimes. And when you start dealing with those weaknesses, man, I mean, it brings a whole nother element of that Lois Lane we talk about. Lois Lane is not just a woman.
No, it's not.
But Lois Lane is the one thing that can win Clark Kent's attention. Yo, Lois Lane
like
could
that.
be
Distract us, yep.
Yeah,
Distract
it
us,
can
yeah.
be. It's a major distraction because most times when you looked at Lois Lane, she was getting into trouble.
Always found herself in
I mean,
trouble.
she found herself over ledges, and I'm not. This is no knock on women or anything like that, but she found herself. There's a meaning why I'm saying that. She found herself in places that required him to be outside of what he needed, what he could be every day.
He was trying to present as.
Exactly. So a lot of times our money will get into us trouble and make us bust out and become Superman. And our circumstances around us causes us to have to jump into the telephone booth and change real quick because Lois keep getting us into trouble.
We rush into situations without necessarily thinking.
Exactly.
You know, like Lex Luthor always had the kryptonite. He always had it no matter where he was, and he was causing trouble.
Yeah,
Right?
man, that's
and
it.
so when Lois Lane got in trouble, Superman found himself around some kryptonite.
Yes, that's right.
So he found himself in a bad predicament, being weak.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily his fault, but he couldn't get over Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
He
that's
couldn't
it.
get over his vice or the area that
But
he was
does
weak
that
in.
not put that responsibility on him to discern
Yeah.
when to put himself out there, knowing there are things that could overtake him
Yeah.
in the moment,
Yeah.
versus processing through the situation.
Right.
It's almost like most men don't like asking for help, and when we don't ask for help, that's when we become somewhat more of a burden with things and become stretched to think that we have to fulfill these other roles and hats, you know, because we don't ask for help like we probably should.
Right.
And I think that's a key element that I've learned to practice is to call people 3 or 4 days in advance if I need some help doing something so I can get some feedback from them. Versus call them at the last minute, the 13th hour, asking them for. But I'm learning to ask for help and being okay if they're not able to give it to me at that time.
Yeah.
You know, at least I'm asking.
That's exactly right. And we have to understand we're always becoming.
Yeah.
We can come better than we were yesterday by, and then that humble part. As you start to do these things, it become easier to do.
Yeah.
And then you put in that pride, because you know pride competes against
Yes,
God.
it does.
That's good, Joe.
It competes.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it, I can't have the peace of God till I have peace with God. And
That's
so
it,
if
man.
I'm warring with God, I can't get His peace.
Man, that's good, man.
I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I need the peace of God. As a matter of fact, we need that every day.
Yeah. And see that's that kryptonite that we're talking about, that peace that we got to have because everything else weakens us. Going back to what Marcus was saying as well, that element of how kryptonite affects him in such a way, you know, that he couldn't help that compassionate side. That's why God made woman so sensitive. You know, look at Samson. Samson was the strongest man ever, and he found himself being weakened by a woman that continued to pull at his strength.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, and that's what the Lois Lanes of our lives do. They continue to pull at us to make us come out of where we are
Right.
to what we don't want to have to use, but because our heart is like, man, I keep falling for it.
Yeah.
I keep falling for it. And like going into what we're saying about those villains is that we don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
I think what Marcus was mentioning that in the meeting with us is that we have to learn how to say no sometimes
That's right.
to some things.
That's right.
And even if it means that if it's somebody that needs some help. People may find that as kind of, well, that's kind of heartless. But you know what? You can't. We have to. We as men have to realize that we can't save everybody.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
I agree with that.
We
no,
can-
you ain't no question.
We can't save everybody,
Right.
and we try and save as many as we can
Right.
because we want to give here, we want to give here. Mama need $20, sister need $5. I got a home that needs $3.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm down to 50 cents.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what's left?
Well, one thing I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
and I'm teaching people is that we should practice only giving away what we can afford to lose.
That's good, man.
Yes, right.
Time,
Yeah.
effort, money,
Right.
energy, you know, and that comes to us making that decision, that choice
That's
Mhm.
right.
to be able to
Right.
say no or to defer.
Yeah.
if
That's
you will.
right.
Is that-
Well, I want to take it back a step. You mentioned reaching out for help and
Mm-hmm.
asking for help, and immediately what came to my mind is the Justice League, and Superman was the head, quote unquote, of the Justice League, but Superman also always got into it with people within the Justice League because he knew he was Superman, and though he went to them for help, he still knew he was Superman.
That's right. Yeah.
that is true.
And so we have to be able to balance the fact that not only are we Clark Kent,
Right.
but we're Superman,
Right.
and we need the Justice League to be
Right.
successful because
Right.
life is not a one man sport. Life
right.
is not golf.
Right.
Even a golfer has a caddy,
That's exactly
Wow.
right.
right?
I like
it's a
that.
it's a team sport.
I like
Yes,
that.
sir.
And we gotta sometimes say, okay, let me pull myself back,
Right.
be Clark Kent.
Yes, sir.
Take this cape off and say, all right, Bruce Wayne, Batman,
Mm-hmm.
Aquaman, whoever, how do you think we should go about putting this fire out?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Saving this burning building,
Yeah.
saving.
Collective information.
Exactly,
Yeah.
collective.
And that shows a core of interdependency.
Yes.
Because we not, like you said, no man's an island.
No.
Unless it's unto himself.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that, you got a problem to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So we are interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, in that circle I'm in, it's a good circle because
Right.
we learn from each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's unity and there's growth. All of those things that are going to make us better than we were.
Absolutely, and we definitely need it. Like I'm gleaning from all of y'all right now. We got 4 Supermans in the room, but you know the League of Justice, if you will. And I'm gleaning from all of y'all because every time we come together, y'all, I pull something from your table, Marcus. I pull from your table, Andrew. I pull from your table, Joe, because I need a meal.
Right, right.
I need a meal.
Right.
And so Marcus got the mashed potatoes, Andrew got the green beans, Joe, you got the roll. and I dress it all up, really
Yes, sir.
salad dressing,
That's right.
because I'm telling
That's
you,
right.
be dressing clean, bro. and I glean from all of y'all because potato salad. You starch down. Because I know that at the end of the day, even after we leave this call, I know that, man, I'm going to come out a better man, and y'all make me be better. So the relationship I'm in, I can be better. My kids, I can be better.
That's right.
My family, even in myself. Like Marcus, I know Marcus, he a lot of times talks about self-building and things like
Sure,
that.
absolutely.
And that's the top of everything that we got to accomplish. It's not being selfish to consider yourself first.
That's right.
No.
You can't give
We
away
ha-
something you don't have.
Exactly.
That's
We gotta
it, man.
save ourselves first.
Yeah, man.
I used to be a flight attendant. We used to tell people, put on your mask first.
Yeah.
If you don't put on your mask, you're gonna lose oxygen.
Yeah.
And nobody will be able to rely on you because you're gonna pass out.
Yes. That's
And then, talking about all of us have kids.
Yes.
How will our
Hold
kids be able
down.
to put their mask on
right.
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they're not grown enough, old enough to reach it?
That's right.
We got to save ourselves first.
Yes, you do.
We have to. We have
Yeah.
to put on our own cape or our own mask
That's
first.
right.
And then teach people how to go out and be the superheroes
Yes.
of their lives.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Take the control.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so when we're looking at this last little segment, y'all, we got about maybe 10 or 15 minutes before we get up out of here. So when you start looking at the Superman versus Superman, the inner fight.
Yes, sir.
That Joe mentioned, the killing of the enemy, killing of the enemy.
Yeah.
That's the enemy. What do y'all think is the hardest fight that we have within ourselves? I mean, I know we all got individuals, but what do y'all think some of the men's hardest fight within themselves when it pertains to being and accepting the Superman that's within them?
The time that we've spent being who we are.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is we've been us for so long, and the people that raised us have been them for so long that they have far more conviction than we do as children, right? So if I teach my daughter, you can do whatever you put your mind to.
That's right.
As a 30-year-old compared to a 5-6-year-old, I'm going to have more conviction than her. So the person with more conviction wins out.
Wow.
Right.
Now, if my parents or your parents or whoever always said, well, having a whole lot of money is bad, or people with a whole lot of money is bad, or whatever, they're speaking with more conviction than us because we don't know. We've only experienced what we've experienced based on what they've experienced.
Right. That's
So
right.
they now transferred it to us. So I think the biggest challenge is overcoming their conviction and being more convicted about what we've experienced in life and what we've been exposed to.
Wow.
Although it wasn't a day-to-day thing that we were exposed to.
Yes.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes
yeah,
sense.
man,
Makes a
man.
whole lot
I think this is what I hear you saying as well, is that sometimes we have core beliefs about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if
yes.
we don't
yes,
shift those core beliefs to a different perspective, they can choke us out.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my
All
gosh.
the
Yeah.
growth, the development, the change we're trying to experience, and we won't change our thought process. Now, we can't keep these irrational thoughts from coming, but we can do something about our behavior
Yes,
towards them
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
and do something different.
That's right.
And that allows us to hopefully fulfill those roles
Yes.
that are more healthy than the ones we're trying to get rid of.
Yes,
You
sir.
know,
Yeah.
that inner struggle within
That's
ourselves.
right.
Yeah.
And it goes back to this. What we eat is not as detrimental to us as what eats us.
Wow.
What eats us is something that gnaws on you on the inside
Wow.
and weakens you.
Yeah.
It can zap you. Worry, resentment, those things, unforgiveness.
Yeah.
Those are the things within us. God says, I live at the center of your heart.
Right.
That's where I live. But you know, Brother Joe, boy, you got some weeds up in here that we need to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are those things
Yeah.
that a man has
Time
to...
the wheat grow with the tail.
Huh?
That's it. That's how it always
Yeah.
is, man.
Yeah, you got... Yes.
And then I like how you said that as we grow up in these places, the enemy, all of that is growing in the harvest and the weeds. And those things that we develop in our character over time, they become a part of our Superman life.
Those roots intertwine.
Yeah, and so that's the reason why that kryptonite, he grew up with the kryptonite. And so when those elements begin to grow together, when those elements begin to find themselves together, I think it's important that we identify what weeds in our lives are pulling us away from the healthy life that we are supposed to have for ourselves.
That's right.
We all know that we have purpose.
Yes.
Yes.
But we as men have trouble discovering our purpose as a man.
Yes, that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We know what we're capable of doing as individuals in purpose, but when it starts to come to those areas of man, we find ourselves in a blank. We find ourselves trying to find what is vision. Why do I need a vision?
That's
right. And all those things. And when we start getting into those realms of the wheat and the tare growing together, I think it's important that we have to. The best way to defeat a weed is just pull it out of the ground.
That's right.
They try and use fertilizer on it, but when you start to pull at the stuff that's inside of
cause.
it, you got to go back and like we talked about over and over. You got to go back and search the root of why you're
you
upset.
did. That's right.
Did you have a missing father in your life?
Right.
How did your father treat you?
That's
All
right.
these things. These are the roots that cause us to go in the direction away from our purpose.
Yes.
And not understand what it is for a purpose as a man.
And the person we need that can help us resolve that is our Heavenly Father.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm warring against Him,
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to get the help from Him?
Mm-hmm.
We got to understand the source.
Mm.
He said, I'm the center of your heart.
Wow.
I can help. I'm the gardener.
Yeah.
But I need for you to come to me. I need you to seek me so we can get these weeds out to make you the person I need you to be.
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely.
That's what we are.
Absolutely.
But again, that pride and all that, it's got to go. It's got to go.
Yeah.
Well, we're all works in progress for sure.
Yeah.
The more we work on ourselves on a daily basis,
Yes.
the change comes.
Yes, it comes.
You know, it's gradual. It's not instantaneous. Not
Yeah.
overnight, but it's over time. How
Yes,
much
sir.
time? You know, I tell people this that my change is probably until I die. I'm always
Yes.
working on.
Yeah, absolutely,
and,
man.
And that helps me to hopefully to cultivate myself. I can cultivate others like my family to be healthy people.
Yep.
And those friends that I'm around also, they will be able to want to talk to me versus avoid me as a person.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Exactly.
that balance again. They
Yeah.
see the Superman in me, they see the Clark Kent in me, they also, but they see that I'm able to balance. I guess they can put it in a spiritual term. You can the natural and the spiritual. I'm able to balance the two. That I'm not always talking about the spiritual thing with the Bible. I can talk about natural things, but I can also stay spiritual in the process.
Absolutely.
You know, so they see both in operation, and I think that's the balance we're looking for when we're trying to have healthy relationships and healthy dynamics around us as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
And if we don't learn how to constantly change
Yeah.
and pull those elements out, you know what's going to happen? Do y'all know what weeds do when they stay connected to the
Choke
tree?
out the plant.
They kill the life.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is what's going on with a lot of men is that the weeds are staying connected too long. Those things that are not good for us.
They ain't pulling them out.
So, yeah, you know, sometimes the weed is your homeboys.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right, man.
the Lex Lugers we talk about are your homeboys.
Yeah.
And a lot of men don't want.
In your direction.
Yeah, they want to stay with their homeboys and stay with these PlayStations and Xboxes, 45, 60 years old, still playing Xbox. What is you 60 years old, still online? Talking about, can you hear me online? You know, are we playing Halo tonight?
Yes.
You know, there comes the age. The Bible says that when I was a child, I thought as a child, and I reasoned as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Yeah.
That growing up element that you talked about deals with that. Hey, let me think about this.
Yes, sir.
Let me see what's going on as a man.
Wow.
Am I gonna still be wearing baggy jeans at 50? Because I see some 50-year-olds, and it's not because they ain't got nothing to keep their pants up, but it's because they are electing to. I mean, you seeing older men acting like they still 20 years old. Go ahead.
Let me say you something.
Go ahead. No, go
They're
ahead.
not acting.
You're right. They're not acting. They're just being.
There ain't no
They're
act.
just being a 50-year-old, 10-year-old. That's exactly what they being.
And I think it's the most. When I see it, man, when I see it, I'm just like, really, dude, you know.
Here's how I felt about video games. Here's how I've always felt. The video game industry makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Here in Dallas, or in Arlington, we'll have the largest esports arena at our convention center in America, and I believe in the world.
Wow.
So they're making a lot of money. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But if you're not one of those that's making a lot of money, why are you 35, 40, 50 years old playing against 10-year-olds talking about, look at that beat down or whatever it is that I just put on you?
Exactly.
They're 10.
Wow.
You've been playing long. You're supposed to beat them.
Yes.
Go out and make some money with it. Provide for your family. If you at least gonna play these children's games, at least be a man. At least be a man while you play them. Go make some money. Don't waste your time.
Yes.
Because you're never gonna get it back. You know, my mentor always talks about You know, he always asks people, are you a praying person? Are you a spiritual person? Most people say yes. And he says, well, pray for noon, see if you get it back. You're not getting that time back.
No, you're not. Yeah, man.
So why are you wasting your time with childish things?
You know,
it makes no sense.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead,
No,
Joe.
you
Go
know,
ahead.
when you look at this, the greatest tragedy in life is not death. It's life. But life without a purpose.
Yep.
That's the greatest tragedy.
Yep.
To live here 70 years and didn't know why you were here.
Yeah.
That's a tragedy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you guys.
You playing video games.
Man, that new NBA 2K20 coming out.
Is it out? Is it
Why
out
do
yet?
you know that, but you can't remember how old your kid is? Like, you have nothing planned for their birthday. What's going on?
That is.
That's
It's been a
absolutely.
good show today, guys.
Yeah, man. And we got to get our closing statements, y'all. We got about 4 minutes left as we close out. Everybody just want to just draw it all in on today. What your thoughts and opinions, the last words of encouragement for everybody on today?
Really, I don't have any words of encouragement. As it pertains to this, I do want to put in a shameless plug. We have the Arlington Black Chamber of Commerce has our Juneteenth celebration, June 24th, over at the Texas Rangers Stadium from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I definitely want people to come out. The theme this year is Keep Moving Forward, and the speakers will be speaking on living on purpose. One of you all mentioned living on purpose. I believe it was you, Journeyman Bell, and I think that would be a great event for everybody to come out to. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to put out there.
Amen.
Okay. I just want to encourage everybody to just continue to, especially men. I think the men are listening. They're not calling, but I believe they're listening. Just continue to look in the mirror and identify who you are and know what you are, who you're made of, who you're made from. God, and know that this image that God has given you is something you need to nurture, develop over time, and growth will happen. Maybe not overnight, but over time you'll see this change that you've been looking for happen.
And I want to speak to the part of growth. You know, growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow is going to get better. So continue to grow.
And I want to just conclude with understanding that the only way to save everyone else is to first save yourself. Until you can save yourself as Clark Kent, you'll never become the Superman that you intended to be. Clark Kent has his purpose, and Superman has his destiny. But until those two, purpose and destiny, can meet one another, he'll never ever be able to save anything that needs help, including himself. Y'all, this awesome show. Journeyman Bell.
Radio voice.
You know, I've been practicing that.
I just want to conclude with, ladies, this is Journeyman Bell on It's a Family Affair radio show.
We're gonna work on that for next week. But y'all, this is the Fantastic Four: Journeyman Bell, Jay Williams, Mr. Andrew Finch. We're gonna have names for them, and Mr. Marcus Williams next month, y'all. We'll see y'all next month, y'all. We are out of here. Y'all take care. God bless.
God bless.
God bless. I know y'all heard him turn that voice off. Everybody else is speaking all regular.